Ladies and gentlemen, life is difficult. We all face struggles, whether they are financial, emotional, or personal. Some days it feels like the weight of the world is pressing down on us, and no matter how hard we try, we just can't seem to get things right. In those moments of despair, it's easy to feel lost, abandoned, or even hopeless. But today I want to remind you of one powerful truth: God will solve all your problems. Now, this doesn't mean we can sit back and do nothing. Faith in God is not an excuse for inaction, it's an invitation to responsibility. When you trust God, you align yourself with a higher order, one that brings meaning and direction to your life. The world is full of chaos, and if you don't have something solid to hold on to, you will be swept away by confusion, doubt, and fear. But faith in God provides that anchor. It turns disorder into structure, despair into hope, and suffering into growth. And yes, suffering is part of life. There is no escaping it, but faith gives suffering a purpose. When you trust in God, you don't just endure hardship, you overcome it. You learn, you grow, you become stronger. Most importantly, faith doesn't just change your problems, it changes you. It makes you a person who is capable of facing life's difficulties with courage and resilience. It makes you someone who refuses to be broken by hardship. So if you feel lost today, if you feel like nothing is going your way, remember this: God is not absent. He is working. He is guiding. He is shaping you into the person you were meant to be. Trust in Him. Walk forward in faith and watch as He turns your struggles into victories. Take responsibility for your life. Many people go through life waiting for a miracle, hoping that their problems will magically disappear without them having to take any action. They pray for solutions but remain stuck in destructive habits, unwilling to make real changes. But the truth is, faith in God is not a passive thing, it is an active force that calls you to take responsibility for your life. Taking responsibility means acknowledging that while God is in control, you have been given the ability to act. You have been given free will, wisdom, and strength. If you are struggling with something today, ask yourself, what can I do right now to align myself with God's plan? It could be as simple as waking up earlier, being more honest in your relationships, or working harder to improve your skills. God will guide you, but you must be willing to move. One of the biggest lies people tell themselves is that their problems are entirely someone else's fault. They blame their circumstances, their upbringing, or society. While external factors do play a role, dwelling on them only creates bitterness. Instead, ask yourself, what part of this problem can I take ownership of? Even if it's just 5%, take responsibility for that 5% and watch how your life begins to change. The Bible is filled with stories of individuals who were called to action. Moses didn't just wait for the Red Sea to part, he stepped forward in faith. David didn't run from Goliath, he faced him with confidence in God. Jesus himself didn't simply sit back, he walked, taught, healed, and ultimately sacrificed himself for others. Every great story of transformation begins with someone who took responsibility and trusted in God's plan. When you take responsibility, you step into a partnership with God. You stop being a victim and start becoming a warrior. Problems don't disappear instantly, but you gain the strength to handle them, the wisdom to navigate them, and the faith to overcome them. So instead of waiting for a miracle, become the miracle through your faith, your actions, and your unwavering trust in God. Order over chaos. Life is full of uncertainty. There are moments when everything seems to be falling apart: your relationships, your career, your mental state. Chaos creeps in when we feel lost, overwhelmed, and directionless. It can manifest as anxiety, fear, or the sense that nothing in life makes sense. But God provides order. Faith in Him is not just a source of comfort, it is the foundation that transforms chaos into structure, confusion into clarity, and despair into hope. Imagine a house left unattended for years. It decays, becomes unstable, and eventually collapses. The same happens with our lives when we ignore the principles that lead to order. When people abandon truth, discipline, and moral guidance, they become slaves to their impulses, their emotions, and their worst habits. But when we embrace God's wisdom, we gain structure, direction, and a sense of purpose. God has established a natural order in the universe. The sun rises and sets at its appointed time. The seasons change in perfect rhythm. Just as the physical world operates under divine laws, our lives flourish when we align with His principles. Honesty, hard work, discipline, kindness, these are not just good ideas, they are laws of order that keep our lives from descending into chaos. One of the biggest sources of suffering today is the rejection of divine order. People chase short-term pleasure instead of long-term meaning. They avoid responsibility, hoping that their problems will solve themselves. But the truth is, avoiding responsibility only deepens chaos. If you are lost today, the first step toward restoring order is to return to God's principles. Where there is disorder, bring discipline. Where there is dishonesty, bring truth. Where there is fear, bring faith. God does not leave His people in chaos, He calls them out of it. He called the Israelites out of slavery and into a structured way of living. He turned fishermen into leaders, sinners into saints, and broken men into disciples. When you surrender to Him, He takes the disorder of your life and brings divine structure. He makes the path clear, but you must choose to walk it. So when life feels overwhelming, remember this: God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. Trust in Him, follow His guidance, and watch as He turns your chaos into order. Truth is the foundation. Truth is one of the most powerful forces in the world. Without it, everything falls apart. Lies create instability, deception leads to destruction, and self-delusion traps people in endless cycles of suffering. If you want God to solve your problems, you must first be willing to face the truth about yourself, your actions, and your situation. Many people struggle not because they lack faith, but because they are unwilling to be honest with themselves. They tell themselves comforting lies: "It's not my fault, I have no control over my life," or "God will fix everything while I do nothing." But God does not operate through deception. He works through truth, and truth demands courage. The Bible teaches that the truth will set you free, John 8:32. If your life is in chaos, ask yourself, what am I avoiding? What am I refusing to acknowledge? Maybe it's a destructive habit, a toxic relationship, or an area of life where you've been irresponsible. Whatever it is, the first step toward healing is honesty. God is a God of truth. His word is filled with wisdom that helps us see reality clearly. When you align yourself with His truth rather than your emotions, excuses, or desires, you begin to build your life on a solid foundation. Lies may provide temporary comfort, but they eventually crumble. Truth, no matter how painful at first, leads to lasting strength and stability. Jesus Himself embodied truth. He didn't avoid difficult conversations, He didn't sugarcoat reality, and He didn't offer false hope. Instead, He spoke directly to the heart of every issue, even when it was uncomfortable. He calls us to do the same, to live with integrity, to seek wisdom, and to base our lives on what is real, not what is convenient. If you want to move forward in life, start by embracing truth. Pray for the strength to see yourself clearly. Be honest about your flaws and shortcomings. Accept reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. And most importantly, through suffering, trust that God in His suffering is an unavoidable part of life. Will guide you to a life built on truth, no matter how much we try to escape it. Unshakable, pain finds its way into our lives through loss, failure, disappointment, or hardship. Many people believe that if they have faith in God, they should never suffer, but that's not how life works. Even the greatest men and women of faith experience suffering. What makes faith powerful is not that it removes suffering, but that it gives suffering meaning. Think about the most inspiring figures in history. Were their lives easy? Did they avoid pain? No, they endured suffering with courage and purpose. Jesus Himself suffered the ultimate pain, not because He was weak, but because His suffering had a greater purpose. He showed us that through pain, we grow, we learn, and we become stronger. When hard times come, many people ask, why is this happening to me? But a better question is, what can I learn from this? Or how can I grow through this? Suffering forces us to confront who we truly are. It strips away illusions and reveals our deepest weaknesses. But it also presents an opportunity to become more patient, more resilient, and more dependent on God. God does not waste suffering. Every struggle, every hardship has the potential to refine you. Imagine gold being purified in fire. It must endure intense heat to become stronger. The same is true for us. When we suffer with faith, we emerge wiser, more disciplined, and more capable of handling life's challenges. This does not mean we should seek out suffering, but when it comes, we should not run from it. Instead, we should face it with courage, knowing that God is with us. The Bible says, "Consider it pure joy whenever you face trials, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance." James 1, 2, 3. If you are struggling right now, don't give up. Don't let hardship define you. Instead, trust that God is using this season to prepare you for something greater. Walk through your suffering with faith, and in time you will see that what once seemed like a curse was actually shaping you into the person God meant for you to become. Faith transforms you. Faith in God is not just about changing your circumstances, it's about changing you. Many people seek God only when they need something healing, success, or a way out of their problems. But true faith does something far greater than just fixing external situations. It transforms your heart, your mind, and your entire approach to life. When you genuinely trust in God, you begin to see the world differently. You stop being controlled by fear because you know He is in control. You stop being weighed down by regret because you understand His grace. You stop living without direction because His wisdom gives you purpose. Faith shifts your mindset from one of victimhood to one of victory. Transformation through faith is not instant, it's a process. It's like planting a seed. It takes time for roots to grow and for the plant to bear fruit. Many people expect their problems to disappear the moment they pray, but faith requires patience and perseverance. The more you trust in God, the more He molds you, shaping you into someone who can handle life's challenges with wisdom and strength. One of the biggest signs of spiritual transformation is that your desires change. The things that once tempted you lose their power. The anger, bitterness, and fear that once controlled you begin to fade. You start seeking things that bring lasting fulfillment, truth, love, purpose, and righteousness. Instead of just wanting God to remove problems, you begin to ask, how can I grow through this? Instead of praying only for blessings, you start praying for wisdom, discipline, and character. Look at the lives of those who truly walk in faith. They are not perfect, but they have a peace and strength that others admire. They don't panic in hard times because they know God is with them. They don't compromise on truth because they trust in God's plan. Their lives are evidence that faith transforms, not just externally, but deep within. If you want God to solve your problems, start by letting Him change you first. When you grow spiritually, everything else begins to align. Your struggles become stepping stones. Your hardships become lessons. And your life becomes a testimony of what true faith can accomplish.